Hey Tish, how you going tonight?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, I'm good. And look, thank you for joining us on Career Companions Career Journeys. Super excited to have you on tonight. You're in the
Thank
real estate
you.
sector in Australia. It's
Yes.
absolutely pumping and it's incredible.
Yes.
Um, you are one of Australia's leading property managers as well. So I think anyone who's aspiring to jump into this career, to have you here tonight is just absolutely sensational. So
Oh, thank you.
that's all right. To begin with, do you want to tell us what your job is, what you do,
Yep.
and who you're currently working for?
Yep. So I work for a local company called Whiteman Property, and my job title is a senior property manager. Now, what that means is many different things. There's many different roles that I do in my job. But in a nutshell, basically, what I do is I manage landlord's asset, and that asset is a property. So I will take care of everything from landlord communication, tenant communication, property maintenance, leasing out a property, giving advice in terms of legislation changes, and obviously collecting the rent and giving that to the landlord so they can pay their mortgages, obviously paying any invoices, landlord insurances, BMT tax depreciation. So I basically handle everything related to property on behalf of a landlord.
And how long have you been doing this for now?
I'm coming into my 14th year doing property management. Yes, I know. And I still feel like I started yesterday. So I absolutely love what I do. And I know that I'm a different breed of person. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm really passionate about. I love what I do. It's very much a people industry, but we specialize in property. Yeah, so 14 years and counting.
What did you want to do in high school? Is this what you wanted to do growing up in high school?
Do you know what? Not at all. I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school. I always, my very first job was when I was 14 years old in a hairdresser. So I've always been around people and customer service, and I've always loved that aspect. And I mean, I'm a very bubbly, down to earth person anyway, so I always gravitated towards dealing with people. But from hairdressing, then I went into hospitality. So I worked in a lot of different restaurants and bartending. And the last job that I was in, I felt like there was no more further career progression that I could do. I just didn't feel challenged anymore, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was still very young. I was only 18, 19 back then when I decided I wasn't sure whether I still wanted to do hospitality. So I generally just went online one day and was just applying for any job. And I landed a position. We were a Ray White office back in the day, but I landed a position as a receptionist. And I said to myself, I'll take this job because it's just something that I'll do for now, and then I'll work out what I want to do. And honestly, I never left there. I was there for 12 years with that one particular company, and I worked my way up the ranks through all the different roles that you can do in real estate and in property management. So I definitely fell into it, and I fell in love with it, and I never looked back. So it's not something that I knew what I wanted to do. It's not really anything. I mean, everyone knows about sales, but it's not really something that I even knew existed in property management. So yeah, and I've never looked back.
So you mentioned there you went online to find this job, like when you
Yes.
were applying for jobs. So what platform did you use to find this job back then?
Oh God, I don't even know if Seek was around back then. I'm really showing
Yeah.
my age now, aren't I? Um, do you know what? I would have just used Google and looked for a job. I'm assuming it was Seek. I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you, but I couldn't tell you how many different jobs I applied for. I applied for retail jobs, anything really. Like I said, it was just something to get a job because I grew up in a family where the mentality was, you will work from the age of 14, you will work, you will earn a living. So it was just, I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore. I'll get another job and then figure out what I wanted to do. So yeah, I had no plan. It just kind of fell into it.
And that's really interesting. So you got a job at age 14
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it's not your end goal and definitely not now.
No.
But that mentality of wanting to work and make a living, where do you think that stemmed from?
That came from my family, from my parents. You know, I've always, my dad always went to work, and I mean, obviously, their generation was the mum stayed at home and looked after the children, and the dad went to work to provide. But that was instilled for me. Like I always saw that even though mum didn't have a job, she worked in our family business, but her job was raising myself and making sure I've got a good education and everything else at home. But I always watched my dad leave for work every morning and come home every afternoon and put in the hours. And yeah, it definitely stemmed from what I saw in my everyday, day to day through my family.
It's incredible that they supported you as well into that work lifestyle, and were like, yes, this
Definitely.
is great that you've got those, I guess, attributes of wanting to work, and the resilience at that age to go out there and get a job. Um,
Definitely.
let's go back to your real estate career, because I
Yep.
just want everyone to really understand who you are and what you've achieved,
Yep.
and how a little break like that,
Yep.
and it really changed your life, didn't it?
It did massively. Like I started in a reception role, as I said, and I probably did that for a couple of months. And then I realized, okay, I actually really enjoy this. And obviously, I never working in real estate before. I didn't quite understand what my role, what it meant, what the property managers were doing. I was just a receptionist answering phone calls, passing on messages. From there, I moved into more of what's called a property officer role. And basically, I was what you would call as an assistant to a property manager. So they put me through my real estate license course. So I did that via correspondence while I was working. So I was working full time, doing my course on the side to become a fully licensed agent, which is what I am now. And working in the industry while I'm doing the course made so much sense because I was living it day to day. I was seeing everyone in the office doing what needed to be done, and it reflected back with what I was learning in my course. So I found that very helpful. Where other people watching, if you're going to go do the course but you're not actually working in the industry, you might find some of the questions or the learnings a little bit confusing because you're not actually doing it day to day or hearing the conversations day to day or really understanding the background of it all. So that definitely was a point of difference for me when I was doing my course while I was working. So the property officer role basically helped out with all the back end stuff of property management. So doing up lease agreements for tenants, doing all the routine inspections for the agents. So they would go out to the property, take all the photos, do the routines. I would then finalise those reports for the owners. I did all of the trust accounting, so all the back end money side of the business, which I still do today. Accounting to the owners, putting in all the invoices into the system, making sure that there's sufficient funds to be able to pay those. And the ones, for example, like the large levies or strata levies, if there wasn't enough funds, I would then communicate with the owners to ask them to transfer money into our account so we could pay them so there wouldn't be any arrears on their account. I would go and get keys cut. I would still obviously do the reception side of things, so answer phone calls, pass on messages. But yeah, I was basically an assistant to the property manager so they could then obviously sit down and do what they needed to do, which was important about building relationships with clients and growing the business. And then, so I did that for about 4 years and I loved it. And even then in my head, I didn't really think of what's the next step after this. And then there was a person in our office who was going off of maternity leave. And my boss at the time said to me, "You're ready to move up into a property manager's role." And I was kind of a bit taken back because I thought, oh, really, am I ready? And because I'm such a control freak, and I still am to this day, and I laugh about it and I tell everyone, I'm like, oh, I don't like letting things go. Like, I love knowing that I've got full control over what I do. So I do find it hard to let go. My first thought was, well, who's going to do the property officer role? And my boss laughed at me and said, we will find someone to do that role. Like, you are ready to move into being a property manager. So I wouldn't say I got thrown into the deep end because I knew what they did, but they basically said, you're ready, take the leap, get into property management. So yeah, that opportunity just arose in our office, jumped into that, and I've literally done that ever since. I was a property manager, then moved into a senior property manager's role because obviously I gained the experience and the skills and obviously the years behind me. And then from there I moved into a 2IC position. And as I said, I stayed with that company for 12 years. And then I've gone and had babies along the way as well. So I've had a few short hiatuses out of the workforce, and now back into senior property manager's role for Whiteman Properties. So yeah,
Huge. Now, you're
huge.
being very, very, very humble here. Can you tell us your achievements and
Yeah,
what you've achieved
yeah.
since being a property manager?
So, oh God, big bucket moment for me. I've
There's a
won.
list, right?
I know. So in New South Wales, we're legislated by the REI New South Wales, which stands for Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. So I've been very lucky enough to have won the New South Wales Property Manager of the Year award twice. I've been a finalist in total 3 times. Thank you. I've also been a judge for the REI New South Wales for the awards for excellence as well. So I've been a judge twice where I've been able to judge other categories, which was very interesting, which I really loved that because I didn't judge, obviously, the category I was entering into. So it was good to be able to read other people's submissions in different platforms and different roles, so sales, commercial. There's so many different awards that you can enter into. And honestly, that opened a lot of doors for me in terms of recognition in the industry, my knowledge. From there, I moved on and I was a guest speaker at a few conferences as well, talking all things property management. And I've done a few interviews with other real estate industry heads as well. And now I get the pleasure of being able to tell you why I love what I do. So yes, they're definitely my big bucket list was winning that award.
Yeah. Now, Tish, that's 5 years. 5 years you're at the top of like
Mm-hmm.
getting this award, nominated for this award.
Yeah.
So out of those 12 years,
Yeah.
5 years
Yeah.
you've been at a center of excellence,
Yes.
which is remarkable. Like that is super impressive.
Yeah.
How many property managers are there, would you say, in Australia or in New South Wales alone?
Oh, thousands. There's
Yep.
thousands of us.
Yep. And for
Yeah.
5 of your 12 years, you have been at the very top
Yeah.
of that, like, and
Yeah.
recognized like
Making me
nationally.
blush a bit.
Yeah, I just want people to understand, I guess, the magnitude of this and
Yeah.
the experience you've got. Have you ever mentored anyone in your career to date, or is that something you plan on doing, I guess, moving forward? Or
Look, I
I guess,
guess I've mentored people in my team. At the moment, I'm a one-man band, but look, I've been stopped at the supermarket by other people from different offices who I wouldn't have even known, who have said, "Oh, I read your magazine, or I read your article, or your interview," and that it really. I was so humbled by that. Like, I'm not one of those people that will go out and boast all of these things. Like, I love what I do and I love sharing my knowledge. It's no secret. Like, there's no secret of how to. I want people to know how to do what I do and be the best at what you do. And I'm very open about sharing my experiences and helping other people. I still have other agents from other offices call me on a daily and say, "Hey, I've got this situation. Can I have a powwow with you? How would you handle it? Or what do you think I could do better?" So, and I love that. I love networking with other people. While, yes, other agents are essentially competition, you shouldn't see it as competition. There are hundreds and thousands of properties all over the Central Coast and also New South Wales, Australia, to be managed. And not one single person can manage that. So I love that I can network with these people, build relationships, and be able to have those conversations and be able to help them, and vice versa. Sometimes in your mind, you know what the answer is, but you just need to powwow with someone else to go, "Yes, okay, I'm on the same page, and that's how I would action that." So, yeah, I've been very lucky to be, surrounded by so many amazing other influential people in the industry as well, both male and female. In terms of mentoring, I have been approached to join a mentoring group to help other people as well, but at the same time, I had to weigh up how time poor I am. Well, not time poor, but how much, I'm still working full time. I've still got my own portfolio and I'm growing the business. So I didn't want to slack off on that side of things to put more effort into mentoring. It's definitely something that I might look at doing in the future when I take maybe a bit of a step back and do more of a management role, like a 2IC role again. But I've just come back from having my second baby, and I'm ready. I'm geared, and as I said, I've had probably 2.5 years off, not consecutively, but yeah, I'm back. I've had my children, I'm raising a family, but I'm back in the game, and I'm, ready to learn and accelerate and get back to that, hopefully, top excellence again. But yeah, look, definitely something I'll look at in the future, but not ready right now.
okay, let's also acknowledge you're a mum of two. You're a full-time working mum of two.
Yes.
How do you find that? How did you find going back into the workforce? Yeah, I know we were all like, we held on tight and we just
Yes.
kept going.
Buckle in, strap in. Look, I was ready to go back to work. I mean, do not get me wrong, I absolutely love being a mum. I've got two girls, so that is full on, and they're mini versions of me. So my poor husband. But I was ready to go back. First time round, well, both times actually, I only had 9 months off, and both of those times, while yes, I wasn't actively working in the industry or working for the businesses, I was still very much in the loop, and had communication with my officers, and had a finger on the pulse because the industry is changing all the time. It's like doctors and nurses when they have to keep up with medication. The legislation is constantly changing. So for me, I didn't want to be out of the loop with what was going on in the industry. So I kept my professional development up to date. I was tuned in with what was going on in the office, even though I wasn't actively speaking with clients or landlords, tenants, or involved in any of that process. I knew what was going on, just so I knew when I came back, I wouldn't have to kind of relearn what happened within those 9 months. So I was definitely ready. It took me a little bit to kind of get out of mum talk to be able to then get straight back into obviously talking about property and owners' goals and what their growth looks like for their portfolio and things like that. So, but absolutely loved it. And even now I have days where I do struggle, but I drop the girls off wherever they're getting looked after that day, and I walk into the office and I'm ready. I'm ready for the day, and I'm very much 110% committed between my working hours and even when I get home. It's property management is not a 9 to 5 job, and you'd be lying if you say it is. So I obviously am mindful that I want to enjoy that downtime with my family, and I want to have that family time. But I also know that there are certain things that sometimes I will need to have to do outside of hours, and my clients respect that I'm a working mum as well. So if I'm in the car and I take a phone call, I'll say to my clients, look, happy to take the call, but I've got kids in the car. So, and most of my clients are parents themselves, and
Yes.
not every job allows you to have those personal phone calls during the working hours. So I know which clients I need to communicate with after the 5 o'clock hours, and they respect that I will take that call during family time as well.
Now, what would you say? I always make a joke of this. I say property managers, they're not just like, it's not one job. I always say it's like 7, 8, 9, 10 jobs in one job.
Mm.
Can you just give everyone a rundown of
Yeah.
all the jobs you do in a day? Like every single different job, because you are going from being a lawyer to being a project manager to being a tradesman at times, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do you want to give everyone a rundown of
Oh
like
God,
what a
don't know
day
if you're ready for this. It might scare people off.
look how passionate you are.
Oh,
There
I
is no
love it.
way
Oh, I could
that
talk about this for hours. I love it. Look, I would say I'm a chameleon in most sense. You definitely have to wear many different hats in property management, and not all of it is sunshine and roses. So, I guess first off, communication is number one. You are communicating with landlords, tenants, tradespeople, prospective tenants, prospective landlords, other agents, people in your office. So communication is number one. I'm a negotiator. Obviously, when I'm advertising properties, I'm negotiating, rental amounts and lease agreements and special conditions and terms of what the landlord wants to incorporate into that lease. I'm conciliator. When things don't go to plan or there's a hiccup, then I have to get involved and obviously do the problem solving. So put my problem solving hat on and go, okay, well, this is the issue. This is what we need to do. And I'm the middle person, and I have to conciliate both sides to get to an agreement. And if we don't get to an agreement, then obviously there's the tribunal path of things, which is where the lawyer hat comes into, where I then obviously am representing the landlord, and I have to obviously comply by what the legislation states and obviously follow the landlord's wishes. A lot of people don't realise that I'm employed by the landlord. So while yes, I deal with all of these different people, the landlord pays me. So I'm always working in the best interest for the landlord. And of course, I want to give the right advice to both parties, but essentially at the end of the day, I do work for the landlords. Then obviously I do the accounting side of things. So I'm collecting all of the rent, and I'm dealing with the arrears, and then I'm paying the landlords, making sure that their mortgages are paid on time. And then I'm obviously
collections as well. There's another job in there, collections. You're doing
yes, the
collections.
collection. So I'm
Yeah.
collecting that. I'm collecting it, and I'm following up on the tenants who aren't paying their rent, and then obviously communicating with the landlord so they know where they're at. So they know, okay, your mortgage's payment is due on this date, and this is how I'm working with the tenants to get that sorted. And then, obviously all the bills that come into play. And then I'm a compliance officer to make sure that the owners are doing their duty of care and diligence to the tenant and make sure that the property complies. So there's smoke alarm compliancy, blind compliancy, pool compliancy, make sure that there's no mold, trips or hazards in the property. The list is endless. And then I'm an advisor, making sure that the landlords have the right team of people around them to be able to grow their portfolio, if that's what they want to do, grow through wealth, or whether or not they're your standard mum and dad investor and they don't really know what to do. So I'm advising them on, do you have a right accountant? Do you have a financial planner? What's your future goal with the property? Do you want to purchase another property? Are you holding on to this for a retirement? Are you keeping it for the kids? Are you keeping it to, gain income to sell in the future? So I just want to make sure that I'm aligning them with the right type of people, because obviously I'm not licensed to give some of that information. So I want to make sure that they have the right group of people to give them that. So I obviously network with people in the industry that I can then obviously pass on their information. So we're all working together. We're all working towards the same goal. So that will include if an owner's done any renovations, have they done a tax depreciation? Do they have landlord insurance policy, and the importance of what that looks like. So the list is endless. Like, it's funny when people call and say, what are your fees? You've got to kind of understand what that landlord is looking for. Are they just looking for a cheap fee agent to collect rent? Because that's not what we do. I can provide you with just a rent collection service, but there's so many other things that I think a lot of people and landlords or even tenants don't realize what goes into our job. So yeah, and you work with so many different people, all different walks of life and different disc personalities. So while yes, I'm a very bubbly person and people, I'm a social influencer, you have to be able to understand when you're speaking with your clients, what kind of personality are they? And then I need to obviously then align my personality to match theirs, because there's some owners they're what's called a director, who they don't want all the fluffy stuff. They want to build relationships, but they want to say, okay, you're calling me, what are you calling me for? What are the answers? Let's go. So I need to be able to align my personality to match with theirs. So I'm reading people, I'm working out how I need to communicate with them, with what the best communication with them is going to look like. So they're getting the best out of me. I'm able to build relationships with them, and it's a long-term relationship. It's not just a short-term transaction. It's a long-term relationship that I'm building with them.
And how many relationships, how many properties would you have on your portfolio at any one time?
God, I've managed up to 180 at one time. And in saying that,
and then double that, right? Because you've got the landlords.
Exactly, because you're doing that with the tenants and the landlords. And some different offices, which it depends on how your office is structured. So there's so many different ways that you can structure your office. So if you're a business owner looking at this, there's a pod style, there's a task base, or there's a portfolio base. And not all of them will work for your office, and not all of them will work for the staff that you're going to be employing. So I personally, myself, the control freak, likes doing the portfolio base, because I take care of everything from A to Z for the landlords, the tenants, where if you're in a task role, you'll have one person looking after the landlord, one person looking after the tenant, one person doing maintenance, one person doing inspections, and so forth. So when you're interviewing property managers to work out who is going to be the best fit to obviously manage your asset, you need to be asking those questions, because so many times I've sat with people, and on the odd chance that I, obviously miss out on an opportunity, they'll come back at a later stage and say, look, the person who I signed up with isn't actually the person who I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Or they speak with one person for the landlords, one person for the tenants. So when you're calling as a landlord and you want answers, and that person who you speak to doesn't have the answers for you, you're going to get frustrated, right? Because they're going to say, oh, I have to speak to somebody else and I'll come back to you, which that works for some people. So as I said, if you are looking at the different structures, you just need to make sure it will work for your clientele. Where for me, people can call me and I know everything from start to finish, from landlord to tenant, arrears, maintenance, one point of contact. It just makes it simple, and you're building relationship with that person.
I just think you're right. You're not dropping the ball on anything, right? You're managing it all, and you've got the information. So it's a really good customer experience, like whether it's a landlord or a tenant. both sides are you're getting their answers and you're ciphering the information, and it's a really good experience when it's that way.
Yeah,
And I hear what you're saying by the other structures, how they could fall apart and
yeah,
very easily one person leaves, and that you have no idea if they've recorded the information you need for that property. So
that's right.
very interesting how, I guess, the role can be broken down so much that it can actually be disruptive. Like it can,
Definitely.
it,
And it's hard because, I mean, real estate, we do have that stigma, and it's very much in sales as well, where it's a revolving door. I speak to so many clients where they say, I've had 6 property managers in the last 4 weeks. They don't know who they're talking to. So it's really important that when you're onboarding staff, firstly, making sure that they're equipped for the role. And if they're a beginner, making sure that you're only giving them a very small portfolio to start with, because that is how you lose clients. And it's really unfortunate because, you know, you might have clients in that portfolio who have been with the company for so long, and then they're getting this turnover. There's no record keeping. So you have a conversation with one person one week and the next week that person doesn't know. And of course it's frustrating because you're waiting on answers that you're never receiving. So it's really important to making sure that A, the culture in the office is good, B, the management in the office is good as well, because they're the two things that I think are grounding for a role. And I've always been the biggest believer that if you have the right attitude, skills can be taught. So it's not always when you're hiring, finding someone who is experienced, because sometimes what does experience look like? Like in our role, like you said, we wear so many different hats. Like, have they had experiences with really dire straight situations where, you know, for example, you might have, God forbid, like a drug dealer in a property that's trashed it? Like, has a property manager managed a situation like that before? And what did that look like? And what was the outcome? Like, I've seen in my 14 years, I've seen so many different scenarios, and I've had to learn absolutely, but I've reached out. I've spoken to so many different bodies like fair trade. You can call fair trading, you can call the REI New South Wales. As people reach out to me, call other people in the industry. Like there's no right, well, there is right and wrong answers, but it's really important that you make sure that the groundwork for the staff members are there, because that high turnover is how you are going to lose your business and how staff members get burnt out. Staff members don't feel appreciated. I always, and even to this day, you know, I feel like a staff member who feels appreciated will always do more for you. And I did write an article after I won one of the awards about going above and beyond. It's not crowded in that space. And I think that is how I have been so successful and how I have been able to maintain relationships for so long. Like I've had clientele who've been with me for 10 plus years, and you know, things have gone wrong, but they've worked with me, I've worked with them, and we've gone through the process together. And I think it's really important as well to understand that everyone makes mistakes, and it is okay to make mistakes. I still make mistakes. But the way that you move forward from that is learning from your mistakes and trying not to make that same mistake again and putting your hand up. And I've always said that to staff members who've worked with me. If you've made a mistake, please just tell me. We can fix it, rather than try and sweep it under the rug. It's going to get worse. And then by the time we go to fix it, it's too late. The damage is done or the client's gone. And no question is silly. I've been there. I've started from the bottom. I've had to learn absolutely everything. And the way that I did that is I went to my bosses. I went to the people who I worked with, and I was a sponge. I learned everything from them. I listened to their conversations. I talked to them about their situations that they're in and how they dealt with them. And that's how you get experience. You've got to
it
start
is.
somewhere. It's not just, here's a book of how to. Like, you have to work through those situations to be able to gain those experiences.
And technology, how has that impacted your role? And
Amazing.
how have you benefited from technology,
Yeah.
like as a property manager?
Yeah.
The files, I can only imagine how big they would have been at some
Oh
stage.
my
Like,
God.
and like, how is that like a
Insane.
story to
We
itself?
are paperless, and I've been paperless for like at least a good 6 to 7 years, but man, that was a mission. Technology honestly has made my job so much easier. And in saying that, it's made me be able to spend less time on admin, less time on doing all of the paperwork, to be able to build relationships, to be able to grow the portfolio, to be able to have more communications with my clients. Where before, when I was more time poor, is because I was bombarded by all the admin stuff. So technology over the years has absolutely evolved and absolutely a game changer. There is so much out there. It is extremely overwhelming. And I think a lot of the platforms out there are doing very much similar things. So, you'll go to a trade conference and there'll be 5, 10 trade stalls there who are obviously trying to sell you their platform. And I actually did speak about this at one of the conferences because it was when technology was starting to take over and when AI was coming into the play and VAs and everything like that. And it's interesting to see the people in the audience. There were a lot of older generations who, had been in the industry for a very long time and they were scared of change. And I can totally understand that because some of their property managers might have also been a little bit older as well. And technology is daunting. But finding a piece of software, trialing it in your office and making sure it's going to work instead of diving in head first and going, yep, we're doing this and trying to do 10 things at once. I'd recommend trialing one platform, getting the software people actually into your office to do a demonstration with you and to help you set it up, and so you know what the program actually does. Because so many times you'll do an online Zoom meeting and go, yep, fantastic, and then you implement it, and then that's it. You don't really know what you're doing. You're fumbling around. So I definitely recommend doing the training for the programs because everything that I use in my office makes my job so much easier. It's a click of a button to upload an inspection. And I can tell a landlord that afternoon, the afternoon that their property goes live, how many people have interacted with their property, how many people are registered to view the inspection. They get an SMS after the inspection. So many times landlord goes, I never get communicated. I don't know what's going on. Tenants and landlords now get communicated the moment I lock the door of an inspection. They get weekly reports from me telling me what the inquiry level looked like during the week and how much rent they're losing if their property is sitting vacant. Like that's what they want to know. When am I getting paid? What am I losing? And how many people are interested in my property? So there's so many amazing pieces of software out there. Software that tracks your maintenance, software that will help you with your inspections, and even to the point of having virtual assistants. Like they are amazing. What they can do in the short amount of time compared to it would take me an hour to do blows my mind. And again, provided that you give them the right support and the right training, amazing. You just have to check their work before you hit send. And as long as you give them clear instructions, and there's so many programs like UseLoom. I use UseLoom all the time to say, hey, can you do this for me? And if they've never done it, I'll do a quick demo on my screen.
I didn't know it was integrated with, and by the way, you've just listed another job, integration engineer.
Yes, that's right. Anything to make my job easier. So, and they're so helpful, but absolutely an absolute game changer. And now we're moving into the next sector of AI and ChatGPT and all of that kind of stuff. Like a lot of people are, I wouldn't say scared, but do they take that leap? And, now in terms of an agent's social platform, you've got Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know. I think...
Right? There's no hiding as well.
No, so absolutely not. You always have to have your game face on. When you're out in public, you always have to be to some sort of level, professional. You are going to see your clients out in public. You're going to see your landlords, your tenants, your trades, people who are potentially interviewing you. So, you do always have to have your game face on. But you're human. You're allowed to be human. People are allowed to see you without makeup on, yelling at your kids to get in the car. But you're always in bird's eye view.
The magnitude of your role is incredible. So you've got a trades portfolio because you have to have a trades portfolio on call.
Yes.
Landlord portfolio, tenant portfolio.
Yes.
You're consistently changing with and evolving with technology,
like
relationship building, new business, sales, you name it, it's there.
Yep.
What's your favorite part?
I love that no day's the same. And I know that that's really weird. And like I said to you before, I know I'm a different breed of person. Property management is definitely not for everyone, and I'll be the first to say that. But I love that I get to speak to all different types of people, all different walks of life, and their property journey is all different. I've got savvy investors who have a portfolio of properties. I've got your mum and dad investors. I've got your first-time investors. So I love that no day is the same. I love problem solving. I love being challenged. Not that I love having issues, but I like being able to explore my skills and explore my experience and be able to get a good outcome for both parties. As I said to you before, you know, sometimes my job's not easy and sometimes I have to have really hard and difficult conversations to both sides. And I guess the one thing which took me a really long time to do is to not take things personally. And I remember being at a conference, and I think it was Alan Please who was one of the guest speakers, and he said that, and it just resonated with me because when I first started, me, my personality, I'm a people pleaser. That's who I am. I'm a Pisces through and through. So I always want to please everybody, whether you're, you know, my friend, family, tenant, landlord. And early on in my career, I really took things personally. So if there was an issue, I would lay awake all night thinking about how can I fix this and should I email them now? And I'll look at the clock and it's 2 a.m. And it's just, that is how you get burnt out. But unfortunately, it's something that I really had to train my brain, and it was like a switch that I had to flick off. And it was when I went to this conference and he said that, and I just said, you know what, you're right. Like, I didn't cause the problem, but I can fix the problem. So, you know, everything can wait till the next day. And I guess that's also another thing that I also have to remember is, well, yes, I didn't cause the issue. I can certainly fix the issue for you for both, well, try to fix the issue for both sides of the party. But I also, if it's not finished at 5, 6 o'clock that night, it's still going to be there tomorrow. So enjoy your downtime, switch off, enjoy family time and sleep on it and reevaluate the next day. So yeah, I love that no day's the same. I love talking to people on the daily and I don't know how else to say it. I love what I do.
It's really nice to hear that. Like, there's so many people that will always struggle to find that
Yeah,
peace, like, because maybe they've been led down the wrong path, or they didn't have like any vision or sight on what else they could do, which is, I guess, one of the main reasons we're building this platform is so
yeah,
that if you are stuck in a rut, that you can like pivot. And
yeah.
there's any age is a good age to do that. Like,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
whenever you want. Like, it's
Absolutely.
not
I've
enough.
had friends fully change their career paths. You know, I guess if you're not loving what you're doing, then you need to change something because I have very much worked with my fair share of property managers who they're burnt out, they get to the end of their tether and they just don't love it anymore. And you know, you would see that in any role. You can tell the people who just don't love it anymore. And for me, as much as I love what I do, sometimes, you know, I just want to give them that little push to say it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to go and find something else that lights your fire because this definitely still lights my fire. And yeah, I mean, we're in the customer service industry. You know, people notice that they're coming to you for an experience, and if they're not getting that, yeah, move on. Find your passion again. You know, it's okay to say that this doesn't serve me anymore.
And what advice would you have for young Tish and young people out there today, like students or
Mm,
anyone around real estate and the property
mm.
industry?
Go for it. You know, like I think of young me a lot and I just think, you know, so many things that I was too scared to jump into or to take risks. And now so many things that I've just gone, go for it. And I have, and you go, oh, wow, like I did that. I actually achieved that. And you grow as a person, like both professionally and personally. And I think if you're a young person wanting to get into the industry, I would probably go and do trials. Like if someone called me and say, hey, I don't know if this is what I want to do, I'd say to them, come follow me around for a week, see if you like it. There are so many people who would say yes to that. And, you know, you might find property management's not for me, but you might hear someone in the sales team talking, you might go, oh, I might be interested in sales. So definitely take the risk, you know, no matter what age you are. I think it's a customer service industry. If you're a people person, you will absolutely enjoy this, but it is hard. It's not for everyone. There are long hours. You have to have difficult conversations. You're going to have good days and bad days, but you're going to get that anywhere. So I think definitely see if you can tag along with an agent for a couple of days and just, you know, dip your toe in the water and test it out. But yeah, I love what I do, and I would openly welcome anyone to contact me if they wanted to, you know, see what the world of a property manager's like. I laugh all the time actually thinking, you know, how they have Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I say to myself, I should do this like Keeping Up with a Property Manager because no day is the same. And some days I just sit back and I go, Oh, that was my day. That actually happened.
You would make so much more than selling sunsets. I tell
Oh
you
my
what,
God,
you,
I know. Even my husband will listen to me have some conversations and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he said, "You dealt with that with a straight face and just completely professional and told them this is the scenario, this is what we're going to do, and are you okay with it?" And he just yes, yeah. And I love that he looks at me and says that. But I'm the same with his role too. Like I'll listen into some of his conversations and I go, "Oh God, I couldn't do that." So yeah, no, there are days where I just go, no one would believe it. And some days, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and vice versa. So,
it's a good thing. Variety is the spice of life. It's what you get up for, clearly. And
yeah.
it's so wonderful to hear your story today and your journey to date. I actually can't wait to see what you're going to achieve over the next 10 years, because if this is what you've done in the first 10 years of your career, what does the next 10 years with all this
Oh, I'm
look
excited.
like? You should be like definitely a female leader in your category, and it's just a pleasure to have you on tonight. So
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
You're
Like,
so welcome.
I just so much a wealth of experience that so many people could learn from. So
Oh, thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Only I hope I can help people in the future.
All right. Well, look, we'll let you go. I know you've got your two little bubbers at home, but
Thank
we'll talk
you.
to you again soon. And yeah, it's great catching up with you, Tish.
You too. Thanks, guys.